Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of the walkthrough of Ulf Wakenius' solo on a blues in G called The Thumb. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, go watch that first because we're talking about the theme in that one and the first 4 choruses, and in today's video we're going to talk about the final 5 choruses. Great stuff as always, lots of blues licks, lots of bebop licks. Let's continue with the 5th chorus. This is the chorus where the fireworks really start, and the first 8 bars is just great lines for a G chord. Could be a G6, G7, even a G major 7, just a G chord, just a 1 chord. And there's lots of chromatics and there's lots of bluesy stuff. Now you might say, well, but in bar 5 of a blues it's C7, so a G line wouldn't fit. Well, that is correct. But in this case, because the lines are so strong and Ulf is not really concerned with outlining the chords in these first 8 bars, it still works. It's just great, strong lines. So he starts with a chromatic line for G. Of course, very easy to play on guitar because you barely have to move your hand, only for the first line. But now it's just 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it sounds more complicated than it is to play. I love that. And then there's a G arpeggio. And now a typical, I want to say Ulf Wakenius line, but it's also just a great line that you might play on a G chord to be bluesy. So that is just outlining a G triad with extra notes. It starts with these arpeggio. That little part is outlining some passing chords. It goes from G to C, C sharp diminished, back to G. But it goes so fast that you're not really thinking about those chords. It's just G. And now a great bluesy line. We talked about the principles of being bluesy in the key of G in the previous video, so go watch that. But he's basically using that same ingredients again, like playing around the third. Again, it's on C7, right? So that B is kind of weird on C7, should be a B flat, but he's not concerned with outlining C7, just concerned with being bluesy. And now a blues scale with nice hammer-ons and slides, just like we talked about in the first video. Then he goes back to the second position of G. Again, referring to the first video, we talked about the different positions of G. And he plays a bluesy line there. Very similar to lines he played earlier in the solo. And then we're off to chorus number 6. And this is the chorus where Ulf is really outlining a specific set of chords, some substitutions that you can play in the blues, and there's some technically challenging stuff, might take you a while to learn it. Certainly wasn't easy for me, but if you master these lines, you have some great stuff you can use on similar changes. So it starts with a chromatic line for G or G7. I would say that's all for a G chord. Then he plays what I would say is an Ulf Wakenius signature lick. That fits over D minor 7, G7. He plays F major 7. But F major 7 is something that you would play over D minor 7. And then that is outlining G7 sharp 9, flat 9, resolving to C. So this is a great lick to practice for your short 2/5s. So let's say you have a 2/5-1 to G, but the A minor 7 and D7 only last 2 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. In that place you could play the lick. So that would be the same lick but in the key of G. So I play C major 7 and then the sharp 9 of D7. So I find it by thinking about the third of the 2 chords. So it's A minor, so I think about a C, and I put my second finger there, and then I play the lick. So let's say it's in B flat. So then I think about the third of the 2 chords, which is C minor, so the third would be E flat. Now, of course, if you have a longer 2/5, then you can still play this in the second bar. So let's say we're still in the key of B flat. So you have C minor 7, F7, B flat. So you play something else in the first bar, you play a chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, So that's where you can also use it on a long 2/5. I think this line is very important to learn. It belongs to my top 2 lines that you can play over a short 2/5. The first one would be this one. Again, it's a 2/5 to B flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have this Ulf Wakenius one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we get something which is pretty challenging to play. It's a resolution to C. And then we get this. So that is E flat major 7, arpeggio. But down. And that fits over a C minor 7 chord. But of course there is no C minor 7 in the blues in G. But there could be if you play different changes. So from the 5th bar you could play C7, 1 bar, 1 bar C minor 7, 1 bar B minor 7, 1 bar E7. And then you go to the final 2/5, the final 4 bars. So that would sound like this. Let's play from the beginning. So G7, 1, 2, 3, 4, C7, C minor 7, B minor 7, E7, 2/5 G. Ulf Wakenius is thinking about those chords, and even though the rhythm section is not playing it, it doesn't really matter because, well, first of all, it's a pretty fast tempo, so the chords move fast, but even if they weren't, Ulf is just playing very clear lines. This is very clearly C minor 7, and now it's clearly B minor 7, E7 altered, E7 flat 9, and now a very bluesy 2/5. And then we arrive at the next chorus. For the first 5 bars, it's back to the blues with really great bluesy sounds, starting with this, playing a G on different strings. He already used that before. Again, go watch video 1. Here we have that that double stop with a blues curl. And then we have this really great high double stop. Of course, it's the same double stop that we find here or here. All great double stops to play on a G7 chord, but now because it's high, it's extra exciting. So it's your typical blues stuff, but like I said in the previous video, it's not so easy to come up with great lines like this, great tasteful lines. So it couldn't hurt to just learn this verbatim and move it around different keys. And then we have a great line that resolves back to G. Now you could spend a lot of time talking about what is happening harmonically. So they say C, then it's B flat, so that would be C sus, and then that sounds like D7 altered. But if you look at the chords there are C7, and then it's back to G, and then there's this B7, E7, or just E7 to 2-5. So that doesn't seem to fit, but it still sounds great. And that's because this is just a line, I would say, in G. Just a line that you could play when there's a long G chord. So Ulf is back in this chorus to just thinking about playing bluesy stuff in G, or great sounding lines in G. So it's all great bluesy stuff, some chromatic stuff, some stuff that sounds very harmonic, but actually it isn't. It is just lines that resolve to G. So it's a big contrast with the previous chorus where he was outlining a specific set of changes, but then here it's back to just being cool in G. It's a great lesson for all of us to learn, because that contrast really enriches the sound you're producing on the blues. And all too often you tend to forget that there is this option of just being bluesy or being very harmonic and then interchanging between the two. Let's go to the next chorus. So this chorus starts with a kind of different sound. He's thinking about D minor with that phrase. It's nothing extraordinary, but it sounds very fresh in the solo because we haven't heard this sound before. Again, he's very careful with introducing new things. So this is the first time he's thinking about D minor on top of G7. For a very short time, then back to blues. And now he plays a lick that he played before, but he played it on G. He played it on the 2-5, but it's just a bluesy lick for G. Now he plays it in C. And again, it sounds very fresh because all of a sudden he's playing C blues, which you can do in the blues. You can take every chord and just play bluesy on that chord, right? You could do it on the G7, and then on the C, and even on the D, back to G. But you could also just play G blues on all of them because the blues is in G. But now he's choosing to just be bluesy in C, and it's a great sound because, again, it's the first time he does that. Then he plays this line. And it's good to know that originally it derives from a different line that I've heard Ulf Wakenius play a lot, which goes like this. Which is a great chromatic bluesy line in the key of C. But he has to stop that line in the middle because he's not in the key of C, he's in the key of G. So he switches to C7 blues, but only for the duration of the C7 chord itself. Right? If you would finish that line, it would be confusing because then it sounds like we're in a blues in C. So he plays the beginning, but now he has to switch back, and he probably realizes, oh, here we are on G or E7, so he plays a line that would fit on E7 altered. That sounds like E7 altered. And you could see that end as a resolution to A minor. It's a little bit too early, but that doesn't really matter. You can always be too early or too late with the resolutions. That just makes it cooler. And then we have a great, you could say 2-5-1 lick, but it's more of a 2-5 lick because it doesn't resolve, which is a great sound, not resolving. And he's thinking A flat on top of the D7, so he's thinking the tritone triad. But he's putting that D on top of the triad. So you get this sound. You could say it's A flat sharp 11. And then we're off to the final chorus. In the final chorus, he introduces some new exciting blues tricks that he didn't play before. The first one is where you play an G and F sharp on the B string, and you push up the F sharp to the G to match the note on the high E string. That's a great blues sound. And then that's a typical blues guitar trick. You can hear that in the playing of George Benson, Wes Montgomery, Grant Green, where you put the note of the main key on top, so G, and then you play minor pentatonic or blues scale notes below it. And there's many licks that use this principle, but one of the most important things is this sliding from the D flat to the C and sliding up to the major third. So it's just the basic blues principles that we talked about before, but now there is this ringing note on top. Sometimes people call that pedaling the G, right? That G just keeps hanging around while you play other notes below it. And then we arrive at C7, where Ulf plays something pretty weird if you think about the chords under it. Doesn't really make a lot of sense harmonically if you look at the chords. One way to look at it is that he's playing E minor, E flat minor to D minor to E7. And D minor E7 is the same as B half diminished E7. So that sounds like E minor, E flat minor, D minor, E7. Or maybe he's just playing some moving fingering pattern, who knows. It just happens to sound really great at that spot, especially because it ends in a G blues line. And he ends the solo in style with a great bluesy line. It's mainly the rhythms that make it cool. Notes on the beat, and then offbeat notes. Blues scale, one more time the major third, end of the solo. So he starts the solo bluesy, he ends the solo bluesy, and there's lots of stuff happening in between, but most of the lines in the solo are just straight blues lines, blues tricks. But if playing bluesy is your main approach, which is the main approach of Ulf Wakenius, then all the lines that are very harmonic or outlining chords are extra cool. That's something to think about. And that is a very powerful aspect of Ulf Wakenius playing. Not only when he plays a blues, but also when he plays rhythm changes or just regular standards. So my plan for the next video is to take a solo that he played on a normal standard, and I'm thinking about Celebrate Starlight, but you can get more regular than that, and to look at his approach on chords like that. And you will see it's the same approach. It's a bluesy approach, but with outlining the chords at just the right places to keep it interesting. That was it for this video, and that was it for this solo. If you look at the previous video and this video, you will have the complete solo. You can learn the theme and all those cool licks. If you want to download the tab, you can download them from my Patreon. It will be available for my patrons at all levels, even the €5 level. If you join at the €10 tier, you get access to many more videos, also lots of exclusive videos. And then there's the highest tier, the 28 euro tier, which I call the best deal in jazz guitar education, because there's literally hundreds of videos, many exclusive videos, and thousands of licks, of course everything in very clear tab. If you like this video, please give it a like. It's really helpful to grow my channel. Consider subscribing, ringing the bell to keep up to date with my newest videos, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye!